Here in New York with me is Paul Rykoff, host of the Independent Americans podcast. As we've been covering this breaking news, you're here for your weekly appearance, and why don't you weigh in on it? As I said to everybody else, it doesn't seem surprising because we knew what was coming here, but we didn't exactly know how it would play out. Concerns, thoughts?
Not surprising. I mean, Chris Wray had become kind of a political dead man walking, so It was a matter of time. I think that the interesting dynamic here is, I think he set an end date. And if he does, that allows Trump to force his hand, because let's assume that Kash Patel's nomination drags on, or even he doesn't pass a nomination, then Trump will be able to say, hey, we need an FBI director.
Well, it's right when Trump comes in,
exactly.
on the 20th of January.
You're going to say, hey, we're vulnerable, we don't have we have an acting director or an undersecretary, we need a confirmed and vetted FBI director. So I'm sure Chris Wray wants out of there pretty quickly, especially given the threats that are going to come to him and his family. But this is going to leave a gap that could potentially be leveraged for Trump to use over the Congress in the next session.
You have any thoughts on what you just heard the congressman bring up, this idea of morale and or people, in the rank and file at the FBI?
I think it's spot on. I mean, what you're seeing in these nominations is kind of Trump 1.0 versus Trump 2.0, right? 1.0 is Chris Wray, right? Or General Mattis. 2.0 is Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth. And the downstream effect of extremely political and very hyper-partisan people is you're going to lose moderates, right? You're definitely going to lose Democrats who also serve in these offices and federal jobs across the country, but you're going to lose moderates and people who consider themselves civil servants and want to put country first. And like he said, don't want to be a part of a political circus or a vendetta tour, which is really the worst case scenario of someone like Kash Patel in office.
These Patel hearings will be interesting, and be a lot of hearings that will be interesting. I think we have a reaction from both sides of the aisle in the Senate, so we could put it up from the senators that reacted today, and then we'll go through it. We also had Donald Trump's reaction that we put up earlier, but I know Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut, Senator Grassley have also put out statements here. Senator Grassley reports of Wray resigning after my letter Monday outlining his failures, reform badly needed. At the FBI, says Senator Grassley, the Republican, talking about transparency and accountability. Predictable as well on the other side from Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut, saying the resignations resulted from raw political pressure. Calls that repugnant to our justice system, vastly heightens the hazards of weaponizing the FBI for political or personal ends, which should be, that's a tough one for me. It always has been. I don't know why. To all my colleagues, regardless of party. It's just, so Grassley's talking about the letter he sent out earlier in the week, but yeah, we knew this was coming, right?
And accountability and transparency is one thing. Burning the place down and turning it into a political weapon is many steps further, and I think that's what moderates and independents are concerned about.
Yeah.
Every one of Trump's nomination is more extreme than in his first term. You had somebody, again, I go back to somebody like General Mattis, who was generally respected across the aisle, had a ton of experience, was much more moderate or even apolitical, hadn't been in politics before. Now you've got guys who've been on podcasts bombing away for years and have never held office or been an FBI agent, as an example.
Well, so some of them don't make it, right? Like, because Gates, you were here, remember the day that he announced Gates, and then that didn't go anywhere. But it's interesting to see how the rest of this is going. For example, Hegseth, who I know you've been outspoken about, you don't think he should be the Secretary of Defense, looks better now than ever, right? In some ways,
I don't know if he looks better. I think
better than he did.
But I think what's happened actually is that Hegseth's media offensive has been very effective.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also been an intimidation campaign. I mean, we were talking about Joni Ernst. Now the right wing and the MAGA base is saying if Joni Ernst doesn't confirm him, they're going to primary her.
Looks like it's working.
And it looks to be moving her, but she still hasn't said yes. She's still saying, let's wait for the confirmation hearings. I think she's going to be critical. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski. And what they're all saying is we want to wait till the hearings. What they're also saying is we want to see if anything else comes out in the next couple weeks, which buys them some time, gives them a chance to keep their powder dry. And as Hegseth and Trump continue to challenge his accusers, one of them might take him up on it. One of them might go talk to 60 Minutes, might testify before Congress and say, you know what, you challenge me to come forward, I will. And that would definitely change the dynamic pretty quickly.
Well, that could be a hearing, there could be a hearing like we saw in the Kavanaugh hearings.
Exactly. And that would definitely push, I think, especially the few female members of the Senate and someone who's a combat veteran like Joni Ernst, who's also a sexual assault survivor and is, in a position to kind of hold the line. But she's pretty far right compared to Susan Collins and Murkowski,
right, who
are much more moderate.
Has been working on, but wouldn't necessarily need the way the math works in the Senate, but he would need Joni Ernst to for sure. To me, the one that's going to be the most problematic for Trump might very well be Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of in a line, right? Like now Hegseth is taking the most arrows. He's getting the most media scrutiny. You know, he's in the limelight. If he steps aside or goes through, then it moves down the line to Tulsi Gabbard. Then we get to Kash Patel.
Right.
Then maybe we get down to things like the VA secretary, Doug Collins, who's maybe the least talked about nominee in this entire situation. Everybody's talking about how much they love their veterans. Most people on the Hill can't even name who the nominee is right now. And all these people need scrutiny. All these people need oversight. And that's also Trump's strategy, too. Flood the system and overwhelm it so he can push people through quickly that otherwise might not get through.
Right. Thank you, Paul. As always, we're always here for the breaking news. It turns out something always happens when you're
always interesting.
Man, Paul Rykoff with us here.